Hi, my name is Avi.
Hi, my name is Sutton.
And this is Lab 9 Diffraction with TA Lom.
As a quick background, diffraction occurs when light waves encounter an obstacle or aperture and spread out. The resulting diffraction patterns depend on the aperture size, the wavelength of the light, and the distance between the aperture and the observation plane. Here in this picture we have a circular aperture. Now the two main diffraction types include Fresnel diffraction, which occurs when the observation plane is relatively close to the aperture, and Fraunhofer diffraction, which occurs at larger distances from the aperture. In part A, we used a Heaney laser, an aperture, an objective lens, a camera lens, and a camera detector connected to a computer running Thorlab software. The whole setup was mounted on two PVC pipes, which made alignment extremely difficult, but we managed. Using the software, we recorded the diffraction patterns of a single slit, wide and narrow double slits, a triangular slit, and a circular slit. We moved the camera along the optical axis and recorded the patterns at various distances, giving us the Fraunhofer and Fresnel diffraction patterns.
Here we see the diffraction patterns of a single slit. Starting from the image of the slit, we took pictures of the transition into the Fraunhofer region. Here's the diffraction pattern for two narrowly spaced slits, and here is the diffraction pattern for two wider spaced slits. You can see the narrower slit spacing has a wider diffraction pattern. This makes sense because as the slits get farther and farther, less interference is happening and the pattern decreases until it disappears. Here are the diffraction patterns for a triangular aperture in the Fresnel region, its image, and the Fraunhofer region. We should have used a polarizer to discern more Fresnel zones. Here's the same thing for a square aperture. Again, we should have used a polarizer for the Fresnel region. Finally, here are the images for a circular slit. You can see the circular aperture in the Fraunhofer region produces airy disks. Here's the image next to its plot. The blue is the x direction and the orange is the y direction.
In part B, our experimental setup included a Heaney laser and a beam profiler to measure the laser beam's divergence. We began by placing the beam profiler at several different points along the optical axis, starting at a distance of roughly 2 centimeters away from the laser and moving outwards. At each position, we recorded the beam's width along the x and y axis. We then plotted these measurements to fit the Gaussian beam equation and calculated the beam waist, the divergence angle, and the numerical aperture. We did this by using code written by our dear lab buddy Denley, and we got the following results for part B. The code opens our datasheet and fits the data to the Gaussian beam equation. Now it's important to know that these calculations assume a perfect Gaussian beam, but the actual divergence angle is likely much higher. Our data also could have been better if we started closer than 2 centimeters away from the laser.